And we have a membership of over 100 lovely people in Benicia. We are a virtual village that allows our seniors to live and stay in place in their own abode, both in Benicia and Vallejo. And we offer a variety of services, including transportation when we're not in the middle of COVID, and a lot of lovely social events. And one of those is our our monthly speaker series, usually held at the Benicia Library, and we hope to be back there live soon, but we'll let you know, so stand by for that. And also many other social events that keep all of our membership engaged. So we welcome you this morning to our speaker series with Friday Apaliski. And I'm going to turn this over to Alan, who's going to give you a little bit of an introduction to this speech. Alan?
Well, Friday's a Zoom friend, since I've never met Friday. I heard you do a presentation to the Rotaries in Vallejo, and it was just this marvelous feeling about how to deal with the environment. And basically, as seniors, I think we've all seen life change a lot. Growing up, most of our parents were depression people. We mostly grew up with a whole different non-disposable world we live in. Transportation was different. Most of our parents lived pretty close to where they worked, and life has really changed. And now at this point, basically, I know how much is broken, and mostly I've not been able to figure out how to fix it. And the lovely thing is, when I heard the presentation from Friday, it was sort of a guilt-free how to take a little portion of your world and make it more compatible with the environment. And it seemed to me something I love for all the rest of us to hear. So I'll stop talking and let Friday give us some thoughts.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. I'm really glad to be here. And I do always strive to make everyone feel like they can be optimists and part of the solution, because that really is the truth. I started my career in advertising, so I'm very conscious about the way that we speak and the words that we use. But I shifted careers to the San Francisco Department of the Environment. And what I found there after spending 6 years with policymakers and scientists is that they're really good about talking about the problem and kind of terrible at telling us how to implement solutions. So I left that job and I started my own business where I could help people to make change in their homes, because I really believe that everybody wants to do better, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to do it. And so that is really what I am here to talk about. And in my business, I work with people and I talk about everything in your home, from your heating system all the way down to your dental floss. So I'm just going to pick a handful of things to talk about today. But if it isn't one of the things that you wanted to talk about, please hang on to that question and ask me at the end. I love questions from all kinds of topics. So happy to make this a discussion. And if while I'm talking, you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or jump right in. I'm here for all of you to have this talk. So like I said, we're all part of this solution, and nobody is perfect. I am not striving for anybody to be perfect. I certainly am not perfect. But if we're all better, then we're better. And better is definitely better, right? So that's really what my mantra is. Let's focus on better. And especially when you get started, I like to concentrate on things you can do that are like a one-time change, not something you have to think about habitually all day, every day. So my very favorite thing that lands into that category that I love to talk about, and Alan, I hope you're not bored, because I'm going to talk about this again, but I love to talk about light bulbs. Everybody has light bulbs. And For 150 years, we've been using the same kind of old incandescent light bulb. And now we have LED light bulbs, and they're great and also horrible. They're great for the environment. They're great for your electricity. They are horrible to try and purchase because it is super confusing. So I'm going to help you a little bit on how to pick out the very best light bulbs, because an LED light bulb uses 85% less electricity than an incandescent light bulb. So when you change all the light bulbs in your house, you are automatically using 85% less without having to nag anybody about turning off the lights or anything like that. It's just a simple fix. And the best part is these light bulbs last like 20 years. So you don't have to change them very often. They will be around for a long time. It's not like every year you have to go. And then another thing, because you guys live in Benicia and Vallejo, it gets hot there in the summer. I'm in San Francisco where it's foggy in the summer, but where you all live, it's hot. And the light bulbs get hot and they add heat to your house, but LED light bulbs don't get hot. So you can turn them on in the summer and they're not going to heat up your house or cause you to have turn your air conditioning on higher or anything like that. So here's the deal about LED bulbs. On the back of every single light bulb box, here's just one as an example, there is something called lighting facts. And lighting facts are kind of like nutrition facts. They're on every single light bulb box. Looks like this. Can you see that? And there are two really important categories to look at when you're shopping for a light bulb. And first thing I will tell you is don't shop at the front of the light bulb box. There's a zillion different ones, right? And they have colors and big words and kind of all of it is marketing. Having been a marketer, I can say this with like real conviction. They're just trying to get you to buy their bulb and they're not giving you the best information. What you want is on the back. These are the lighting facts, okay? So the first most important one is the light appearance or the color. And you'll see there's usually a little scale here that has warmer to cooler. And a warmer bulb is going to feel much more like an incandescent light bulb. It's going to feel like what you would normally have. And so the scientists decided that the way we're going to determine the color of a light bulb is by degrees temperature of the sun. So intuitive, right? Yeah, it's sciencey wonky talk. So let me give you the shortcut. The shortcut is 2700 K, which is what this one is. So you can see right there, 2700 K. That is like a normal light bulb. That would be the same color as like a regular incandescent light bulb. And they're pretty standard. But sometimes on the front of a box, you'll see it say like warm or soft warm or all these other words. Forget about those words. Just look at the numbers. That's what you want. 2700 K. Then if you want something that's maybe a little more cozy, maybe like next to your bed or in a reading nook or something like that, you might want something farther down the scale that is more yellow, more warm. So that could be 2400 or 2200. That's going to get more and more yellow. And then maybe in your kitchen or your bathroom where you're putting makeup on, you want something that's a little bit whiter. I would say in the range of 3000 or 3500. But if you get really anything beyond 3500 in your house, it's going to feel very blue. It's going to feel like you're in the dentist office or a warehouse or something like that. And there's definitely a place for these light bulbs. It's in the dentist office or a warehouse. But generally speaking, they're not bad. They're just not appropriate generally in your own house, especially at night when the sun goes down. They're called daylight. And it's really confusing. If you look at the package, they'll say this bulb is a daylight bulb. And you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Daylight, I want it to be bright. No, daylight is blue. And at nighttime, daylight's going to feel very jarring and uncomfortable in your house. So try and avoid those on the higher end of the scale, unless you are looking for something that really is, you know, in an office or other kind of setting only to be used during daylight hours. So that's the first most important thing that people always have a hard time with, is the color. And then the next most important thing on this list of lighting facts is right here at the top, brightness. And brightness is measured in lumens. And this has actually always been true, but we have shortcutted this language by saying, I'm looking for a 100-watt light bulb or a 75-watt light bulb. And when you say that, you generally mean how bright it is. But watts are actually how much electricity a light bulb uses. So this light bulb is considered a 60-watt equivalent, but it only uses 8 watts of electricity, not 60 watts of electricity, right? And your 100-watt equivalent is going to use maybe 10 watts of electricity at most. So watts is not what you're looking for. It's brightness, and brightness is in lumens. So if you're looking for kind of a regular light bulb, middle of the road brightness, maybe 75-watt type light bulb, you're looking for 800 lumens. Okay, that's about middle of the road, like a good bright bulb. If you want something that is dimmer, something for more of a moody setting, you might go down to 300 or 400 lumens. And if you're in, again, like your kitchen, or maybe even outdoor, like an outdoor light or something where you want really, really bright light, you want to see everything, or maybe like just a really good reading lamp where it's really, really bright, you want something that is more than 1,000 lumens. Somewhere between 1,000 and 1,600 lumens is going to be really bright. So if you have a fixture that only has one light bulb in it and you need it to do a lot of hard work, you want a lot of lumens. If you've got a fixture that has maybe 3 or 4 light bulbs in it, then you don't need them to be quite so many lumens. Does that make sense? It's a lot of numbers. All right. But we could go on and on and on about light bulbs, but I just think it's so important because it's such an easy fix. And the other tip I'm going to give you is, if you can, change all the bulbs in one room at a time, because you will be able to tell a slight difference between an LED bulb and an incandescent bulb. But if you change all of the light bulbs in your room at the same time, you won't notice the difference at all. And you'll be able to have a consistent color, because I guarantee you that marketers are changing the outside of these boxes every 6 months. So if you just buy one bulb and then you go back to the hardware store because you're going to buy another one, you're not going to find the same one. So it's better to count the number of bulbs you have in your room, whatever room it is, and change all of them out at once. If you're really ambitious, you can change your whole house at once. And that's really fun to do, because then you get to see on your electricity bill the very next month how the big giant drop, because lighting represents about 30% of your electricity bill. So it's a pretty big chunk. And I can't tell you how many times I have come across clients who say, oh, I don't have that many light bulbs. I only have, like, I don't know, 10 probably, maybe 15. If you tell me you have 10 light bulbs in your house, I guarantee you have 35. Guaranteed. If you tell me that you have 30 light bulbs in your house, guaranteed you have 75 light bulbs. Like, I've done this enough. This is people overestimate or underestimate all the time. So I promise it's a bigger source of electricity use than you think. So, light bulbs. I'm going to move on to my next tip, unless, somebody asked a question. Can you So you can use more lumens in a fixture that, yes, that is limited to 75 watts for incandescent. Yes, yes, yes. That's such a good question. Thank you so much for asking it. So yeah, you might see on your lamp that it says you can only have 75 watts in this lamp or 60 watt maximum. That is the electricity that's the electric maximum, right? Watts are electricity. So I'm trying to look around to see, do I have a light bulb here that has like a gajillion lumens? No, this one only has 750 lumens, but this one has 750 lumens. It uses 9 watts. So that leaves me with an extra 60 watts left over, right? So don't worry at all. You're never going to outuse the wattage on any of these lamps if you're using an LED. You just never will. So yeah, that's a great question, but don't stress about that. This is the bonus. In fact, if you have a house with old wiring, like knob and tube, and you find that your breakers go every now and again, or your fuses go every now and again, this is going to help with that because you're using a lot less electricity. You're not stressing those wires nearly as much. So, okay, I'm going to move on to my next favorite one-time solve, which is about water. And I've been thinking about water a lot lately because it's spring and it's raining and the flowers are growing and the birds are chirping, and it's just got me thinking about how water is life. And I saw this terrible thing just yesterday that said in the beginning of March of 2020, only like 2% of the country was in severe drought, and it was mostly in like southern Texas. But in early March of 2021, something like 35% of the West Coast was in severe drought. It's not too much in California. It's mostly like Arizona, Utah, that kind of area there. But we're going to be in the drought feast and famine cycle for as long as I'm going to be here, and probably as long as my son is too. So I'm all for using the water you need. I just don't want us to waste any water. So the two easiest things that you can do is, one, change your shower head to be a low flow shower head. And I wish we could call it something other than low flow, because I know that the first thing that you think when I say that is, ugh, no water, right? And for all of us ladies with long hair, that often means no pressure. How do I get the shampoo out of my hair? Right? Like, as it turns out, low flow shower heads use smaller holes for the water to go through. So less water goes through, but that also means the water goes through at a higher pressure. So I promise you that even though it's low flow, it's a good shower experience. And I can tell you this, that from the high end Kohler fixtures all the way down to the $5 fixture you get at Ace Hardware, they all do the same thing and they work well. I've literally used the $5 one from Ace Hardware and the $100 one from Kohler, and it's all a very good experience. So don't stress about, the cost of it or making sure that it's whatever. The numbers I'll give you on this are that for a shower, it should be 1.8 gallons per minute or less. Ideally 1.5, but a normal shower head is 2.5 gallons per minute. So rather than feel guilty about taking a long shower, you can have 30% less guilt by just changing your shower head, right? You're going to use less water and keep your shower the same length, or you can use the same amount of water, but you can have a couple extra minutes in the shower, however you want to do it. But that's a really important one. And that same trick applies to every one of your faucets. So does this look familiar? The end of a faucet, right? And it just has the little Usually you can just unscrew it with your hands. You might need a pliers, but nothing more drastic than a little pliers. And you just unscrew this part, the little end part of your faucet, and on the inside you'll see this. It's this little plastic piece. It's called an aerator, and it controls the flow of water out of your faucet. And again, a standard one is about 2.5 gallons per minute. And an aerator that you can replace it with would be like 1.2 or 1.5 gallons per minute. And we're all washing our hands a lot more. So if we can cut our water usage down every time we wash our hands, that's going to be positive for everybody. And on the line of saving water and washing hands and dishes, we're all doing a lot more dishes lately, right? Because we're at home, we're not eating out as much. Use your dishwasher. This is my favorite tip. Put all the dishes in the dishwasher. Use your dishwasher. Your dishwasher is way more water efficient than you are. Because remember, I was just saying that the flow rate on even the best one is 1.3 gallons per minute. So probably if you're washing your dishes, you're going to have the water running for more than 2 minutes, I would think, total. I guess it depends on how big your family is. But your dishwasher is only going to use 3 gallons of water to wash your whole load of dishes, which is pretty efficient. So don't feel bad. Put all the dishes in the dishwasher. Run the dishwasher. It's okay. It's a good thing to do. All right. Are there any questions about water? No? Okay. I'm going to go on. You can always pop in with more questions too if you want. The next thing.
April,
Oh, sorry.
question about the detergent to use in your dishwasher.
Oh, okay.
There's some of them with all of the particles and stuff like that. Any comment about that?
Yeah, so water is such water, we could talk all day about water. Water is so interesting. It is a vehicle also for toxic chemicals, right? And we clean the water, we put it out to the ocean, then the earth does its clean cycle. And oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can you just excuse me for one second? I forgot to tell my dog walker that I am talking to you all, and she's outside the door. Like, I'm here. Sorry.
Just so everyone knows where we're taking a break, I have muted you so that we can hear Friday, but if you have a question, just unmute yourself and then you'll be able to ask it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so are there any detergents or shampoos without sodium so that they can go in the garden without salting the earth? Yes, for gray water, yes. So usually you would find a detergent that would say that it is biodegradable, which is a word I really hate, but I hate that word because it gets misused a lot. But generally speaking, that's what you're looking for on a detergent, or something that specifically says that it's okay with gray water, but there are lots of them. And it just depends on the usage. Alan, to get back to your point about dishwasher soap in particular, there are so many different angles towards this. One is the toxics angle. I would argue that if it smells strong to you, it's probably not great. And the other thing is that oftentimes they come in plastic or like little individually wrapped packages. So there's like a waste that is associated with them. So if you can use like a powder detergent, that's going to cut down on waste and packaging. I will tell you what I personally use. I really like this brand called If You Care. But I'm going to put a little caveat on it because I recently found out that it's made in Italy. And that's it's kind of problematic that they are making this product in Italy and shipping it to the United States. But it is if you go to Whole Foods, you'll see there's all kinds of things that are made by this company called If You Care. I'll put that in the chat. If You Care brand. And so that's what I personally use. There's also a great company very close to you all and in the East Bay called Feel Good. And Feel Good, it's run by a girlfriend of mine named Stephanie, and she is all about dishwasher powder and laundry detergent and shampoos and conditioners and all kinds of kind of cleaning and care products. And she calls herself the Modern Day Milkman. And what she does is bring it to you in bulk, like in a glass container, and then she takes the empty container back and refills it. And she delivers to your house. So you don't have to go to her store. You can just order online and she delivers it to your house. And it's not the evils of Amazon. It's your friendly neighbor, Stephanie. So Feel Good is another place to find non-toxic detergents that are low waste. Other than that, there's an online tool that you can use by Environmental Working Group and ewg.org. Their website is not the most easy to navigate, but they do have a section on household cleaners, and you can type in all the different cleaners that you have, and it will give you a rating about how toxic they are. And that might be another way for you to decide whether your dishwasher detergent is acceptable for you. Everybody has different criteria, like we talked about the gray water and the sodium lauryl sulfate and some of those things. EWG is going to steer you away from any of that. The other thing you can do is if you're in the store itself, you can look for a couple of labels. One is done by the EPA. It's called Safer Choice. And the Safer Choice label will get you definitely one step in the right direction. The kind of premium platinum, very best version of that is Made Safe. And it's not really wide. There's not a ton of Made Safe products, but it is, for me, the best of the best of the best when it comes to non-toxic. And I can show you. Well, this is my favorite brand generally, Meliora. But this is not for dishwashers. It's for house cleaning and laundry. But this is a husband and wife. The wife is the scientist, and they're based in Chicago, and they make all of their product in Chicago, and they are Made Safe. So this is what that Made Safe label looks like right here. And you can look for that on products as well. But yeah, I'll just tell you, Meliora is my all-time favorite. I think they're the best. And you could definitely, if you were looking for gray water or something that didn't have sodium, I think this would meet the bill for you. But check them out for sure. And okay, so then I was going to move on to talking about single-use items. And I think that Alan's introduction here was really important because this is all stuff that we know and all stuff that definitely generations before us practiced. We just have to get back into the habit of it, right? We just have to remember that we can do it. We just haven't been doing it. And so single-use items in just about any category are going to be harmful for the environment. They tend to show up most in plastic. And plastic is just really problematic. I am the most optimistic person I know, and I can't put a good spin on plastic. It just is not good. It's made from fossil fuels. So, the Richmond plant is contributing to plastic, and it is not ever digestible by the planet. So even though there is a carbon footprint associated with paper and glass and aluminum, all of those things are earth products and they can be digested by the earth eventually. But plastic cannot be. It just breaks up into smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller pieces into these teeny tiny little microfibers and microplastics that the fish eat, and then we eat the fish, and it's just bad. Plastic is bad. So I promise that'll be the last of my like guilty downer stuff. The good news is we all know some basic things to stop using plastic. It just is that we have to remind ourselves. So a few of the ones that I like as a one-time switch out. One is, well, this is plastic and not plastic, but paper towels. Paper towels come wrapped in plastic. Paper towels are paper and you use them once and then you throw them away. And there's some astounding statistic that I don't have at the top of my brain about how many paper towels and how much toilet paper is actually made out of old growth forest. It's bananas. It's way more than is acceptable. I mean, really none is acceptable, but like really it's a lot. So I would say replace your paper towels with the unpaper towel. This is just a roll of cloth that you can unroll just like a paper towel. And I know that this does not seem groundbreaking. It isn't groundbreaking, but it is a good reminder that we're all doing laundry. Everybody does laundry all the time. And it's not that hard to add one little cloth into this. So if you are a DIYer or like a really good at your sewing machine, the only magical thing about these is that they are uniform in size, right? So they're all the same size. So they roll really nicely onto the carton, or you can use like the cardboard tube from your very last paper towel roll. Or this, I purchased these from Marley's Monsters, which is a women-owned business in Eugene, Oregon. I'm a duck. Go Ducks. And so theirs is wooden. It's a wooden stick that you just roll and put them back on. But you could make these out of t-shirts. These are 100% cotton flannel, but whatever you want to make them out of. My only thing is get a dark color, because if you use them right, they're going to stain. And if you use a dark color, then you don't see it. And the reason I know that is because I have a whole bunch of bright colors, and the bright colors have stains and the dark blue ones look perfect all the time. So learn from my mistake. Here's my other tip about having cloth in your kitchen. If you are replacing paper towels with unpaper towels, put a hamper in your kitchen, or put a hamper wherever it is that you're using these cloth items, because I guarantee you're going to be frustrated if you have to walk to the laundry room or walk to your bedroom to put a dirty towel every time you would normally use a paper towel. That's just going to drive you bananas. So what I did in my kitchen, I have, like a lot of kitchens are designed to have the two big bins. And in theory, it's a recycle bin and a landfill bin. Well, I made my landfill bin this teeny tiny bin that goes underneath the sink. And I made my two big bins a recycle bin and a hamper. So I just pull it out and I throw my towels and napkins and dishcloths and all those things into that hamper. And then when it's time to do the laundry, I just always swing by and throw those in too. But that's a really good one-time purchase, right? A one-time purchase of the unpaper towels. And then you can get rid of one whole category of single-use item. Plus, paper towels, I think, for a while were a little hard to come by. So let's take them off the must-purchase list. focus on something better. So paper towels, plastic wrap. Plastic wrap is one of those single-use items that is plastic and not great. And I have found, I mean, there's two ways to get around plastic wrap and plastic bags. I'm going to just kind of lump those two together. So I have this, looks like a shower cap, but it turns out it's not a shower cap, although you could maybe use that if you wanted it to. And if you have an extra shower cap, maybe that's what you should use. But this is a bowl cover. And so when I need to cover a salad or take something from one place to the next place or whatever it is, I just put this cloth bowl cover on. And I don't mind if it gets a little bit dirty because remember, I have a hamper in my kitchen. So I just throw it into the hamper if it gets dirty. But it's a great way to still keep the air out and still keep my food fresh without using single-use plastic. So cloth is great. Also, I will tell you, my husband really likes the beeswax. Have you seen this stuff? Beeswax cloth? It's you can get it at like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or a lot of these grocery stores. But here, let me tell you, because I think there's a lot of women on this call. My hands, oh yeah, Alan has some. Check out his screen. That's what it looks like. Yeah, I don't like beeswax either because my hands are always freezing and it just does not work for me. And I will tell you, I kept beeswax in our drawer in our house for like 2 years and it never worked for me. And then one day randomly, my husband pulls it out of the drawer and he goes, wow, this stuff's magic. I'm like, what are you talking about? This stuff never works for me. Well, his hands are super warm and it all like molds and it got all tight and perfect and made this great seal just like they say it's supposed to. But if you're not a person with really warm hands, it's not going to work for you. So just know that there's no like perfect solution. It's all about what is the perfect solution for you. And hopefully I'm giving you some ideas, but you know, like it's okay if some of these things don't work. The other favorite thing I have, and you all know this, is oh, the wondrous, fabulous mason jar. The mason jar is like the best thing ever. And you basically never need a single-use plastic baggie if you have a mason jar. Half of a lemon fits great in a mason jar. An avocado or half an avocado works great in a mason jar. Leftover pasta and snacks, peanuts, cashews, you name it. Like, don't get hung up on the shape of this. It's fantastic. And if it breaks, which usually they don't, but if they do, they only cost $2 at the hardware store. Like, we know this, we just have to remember. And what I will tell you about plastic bags and plastic wrap is the very best way to get out of the habit of using them is to take them out of your kitchen. Just take them out. One day you say, I'm done with this. Take them, put them in the garage, get rid of it. And when it's not there, you'll look around and be like, well, what else do I have? And that's the end of it. And don't worry about, did I use it? Did I not use it? Forget about that. Just put it somewhere else. And then if there really is a super emergency where you absolutely need a plastic bag, which every once in a while that happens, then you know that you have a hidden stash in the garage. You can go get one if you really, really need it. But if it's not there in your everyday, you'll stop using it. And so that's one of the biggest keys on this is trying to make those like one time, okay, I'm going to take this out of my life so that I don't keep going back to it. I saw a question pop up. When I worked at UC SD Medical Center, we used isopropyl alcohol instead of water to wash our hands. That's what I still use. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, isopropyl alcohol would work there. Especially, I've been talking about this a lot during coronavirus, but hydrogen peroxide is a really great disinfectant and it is non-toxic. And this is a little bit of a shift, but hopefully you guys are okay with that. Bleach has forever been kind of the go-to on killing stuff and making things clean. And even for me growing up, like that smell of bleach had an association for me of clean. But that smell of bleach is actually really tough on your respiratory system. And in little kids, it can cause asthma. Just it only takes one exposure to bleach, and you could be, in that situation. So you can achieve the same outcome with hydrogen peroxide as you can with bleach. It's just as safe. You still have to leave it on the surface shiny for the same amount of time, which is about 2 minutes. And also it works great in your laundry to make things whiter. But yeah, I would say, hydrogen peroxide is great, or isopropyl alcohol instead of water if that works. Although I imagine if we're thinking about conserving water, that I would imagine that there is a process that is happening to make the isopropyl alcohol that probably also uses water. So I don't know that that is necessarily a conservation. I would have to look into that. I don't know the answer there. Can you wash and reuse plastic bags? Yes, you can. If you're just focused on waste, then a lot of people say like, yes, definitely wash and reuse plastic. Here's my thing. I talk about waste and I talk about toxics, and plastic leaches endocrine disrupting chemicals. And so I really don't want you to put your food, I don't want food to touch plastic. It's not possible for that to be the case all the time, but it is often possible. So if you want to wash and reuse a plastic bag, that's totally fine. Try not to use really hot water, because the heat is what breaks the bonds of the plastic, and that will increase the amount that it leaches. But if you want to like reuse a plastic bag as Lego storage, or to hold screws or nuts or something else that might be part of your tinkering in your garage, or maybe it holds push pins, or like something that you're not going to eat, then I'm all for that. Reuse, reuse, reuse. Yes. But I don't love plastic being reused, washed and reused when it comes to food, because of that leaching factor. And it's not particularly healthy for you personally. All right. I think I've been talking at you guys for 45 minutes. How you doing? It's a lot of talking. I know that there have been some questions that have popped up, but is there anything that anybody wanted to talk about that I didn't talk about? I mean, because I'm happy to talk about whatever.
So again, I muted everybody. If you have a question, you could raise your hand. And then Mary, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
What about getting fruit juices? I believe they're, even regardless of the size, they're pretty much sold in plastic bottles.
Yeah, a lot of food is packaged in plastic. And it is especially hard now when we are shopping so quickly, right? Like either you go into the grocery store and you're kind of rushed to feel like you get out in time, or if you're shopping online, it can feel really disorienting trying to find something new. But the next time you're in the grocery store, use a critical eye. You will find that there are some brands that are packaged in glass. I really like the Santa Cruz brand for fruit juices, and it is always in glass, but there's a handful of others. And the great thing about glass is that glass turns into glass, turns into glass, turns into glass. It is a truly recyclable material. And so is aluminum. Aluminum has really great recycling rates because it is so difficult to mine it raw from the earth. It's just a really hard process. So any kind of aluminum manufacturer is always looking for recycled aluminum. So that is another product that is recycled, and aluminum turns into aluminum, turns into aluminum. Plastic is downcycled. So that plastic bottle might then next turned into a plastic baggie. And that might next turn into like plastic decking. But then that's it. It doesn't go anywhere after that. And the truth is, it's more expensive to use recycled plastic than it is to use virgin plastic. And it's by design that way, unfortunately. So recycling plastic, it doesn't happen very often because the economics don't work very well. So, and we just have so much of it. So as much as you can avoid plastic packaging, that's best. Like condiments is another one of those areas where if you look, there is mustard right next to mustard, plastic right next to glass. Same thing with ketchup. And we go to our like normal go-tos, right? And so you just like go down the aisle and you, oh, this is what I had last time. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to go. But I would challenge you, especially once you get your vaccine, to take an extra moment in the grocery store and see if you can find something that is packaged in something other than plastic. Yeah, Linda.
You were going to talk about fewer trips in cars and how to achieve that.
Sure. I mean, it's a little bit of a tough one as we think about coronavirus. That has made everything harder and also everything better, right? So there's good intake all the time. The thing that I think is better is that a whole lot of street traffic has diminished. Our cities have put slow streets out so that we have more space to be human beings and less space for cars. And I have found myself that I got an electric bicycle over the summer so that I could take my son to school. Of course, he's still not in school. That's a whole nother topic. But we've been having great trips. And I will say that the e-bike turned me into a bicyclist. Like I'm not gonna bike around when I got to work that hard, but the e-bike really helps with hills and like getting someplace. I think though, if we're talking more traditionally about like, how do you leave the house and use less car trips? It really is just about planning. It's about being really mindful of where you're going and planning your trips out so that when you leave the house, you are not running out to the store and back, and then running out to, the hardware store and back, and running out to see a friend and back, but trying to combine those trips and say, well, on the day that I'm going in this direction, what else is in that direction that I can pick up along the way? Do I know someone else who's going to be in that area? So for example, a girlfriend of mine was looking for a place to donate a bunch of art supplies. And there's a place in San Francisco, but she lives in Marin. But I was coming back from Marin and I called her and I said, hey, I'll pick up those things for you and I'll combine them with my things that have to go to scrap too. And I'll just take all of them there. So some of this is, relying on our community. Hey, if you're going to be at that store, will you also get me this one thing so that I don't have to make a separate trip? I think that is, and if you're going to a store that is maybe like a specialty store or like not the most common place, maybe put the word out to your friends. Hey, I'm going to this place that's like a half-hour drive from where we normally live or whatever. Who else needs something from there? Right? Those are strategies for having less car trips and making those trips that you do take count. Then, of course, there is biking, walking, busing, carpooling, all of those things that all become infinitely more difficult when there is a really contagious virus hanging around our city or our cities. So as soon as I am vaccinated, I will go back to advocating for public transit. And I think that public transit is great. And, you know, if we're wearing masks and going on public transit, like that is fantastic. And, you know, there are lots of ways to navigate that, but I don't want to put anybody in the position of feeling uncomfortable from a health and safety perspective. I think that's always going to be number one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, what kind of e-bike did I get? Well, I bought it secondhand. It's a Yuba Mundo. This is maybe not necessarily the bike for everybody else because it has basically this big plank in the back for 3 kiddos to sit on. So it's literally like a car. I only have 1 kiddo and he sits on the back and we tool around and have a great time. But you know, I'll give you a couple of examples. He is doing this like outdoor camp right now. And on the days when I have to drop him off at Golden Gate Park, it is faster and easier for me to take him on the bicycle than it is for me to take him in the car, because the roads are designed finally for people, right? Like the road that's right through the middle of Golden Gate Park is shut down to cars, but it's open for bikes. And that has been great. We went out to Ocean Beach to do a beach cleanup on Valentine's Day. And I thought ahead and said to myself, it was a little bit cold, but I was like, well, I know that Great Highway is closed and I know that there's not a lot of parking there. So I'm not going to take my car. Instead, I'm going to ride the bike. And we got there in the same exact amount of time as it would take us in the car. And we had super fun in the meanwhile. I got to ride him by the buffaloes. And he was like, what? There's buffaloes in the park? That's amazing. So I think it's really, it takes a lot of time and energy to think creatively. So I want to be mindful of that when I suggest that you take a moment and think creatively. Because I know, especially during COVID, it's hard. I'm exhausted. I know a lot of people are exhausted. And I hope that my creativity is helpful for you. But also, when you get to a place where you feel like, gosh, is there a better way? First of all, I'll put my email in the chat. There probably is a better way, and I'm happy to help. Like, email me anytime. But also, try and like pause and say, could I do it this differently? And on those times where you're just so exhausted, you can't rethink life, that's okay too. It really is, because we're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. We're just all striving to be better. And if we are all better, then the environment will appreciate us. I know that for sure.
Right. So what other questions, last questions people have? Comments? So I just want to say one of the things that I did this year that has been successful was in trying to use less paper is using cloth napkins.
Yeah.
That's a real easy one.
Oh, I've been using cloth napkins for forever, and I forget that it's like revolutionary because my mom was, when I was a kid, she was like, why would we ever throw these things out? Like, paper towels are expensive. But can I tell you this trick that somebody just told me, and I think it's genius? There's 4 people in my house, my husband, myself, my son, and my mom. And so I'm going through a lot of napkins, especially because my son doesn't really quite understand that you're supposed to like unfold it and then like refold it and save it for the next time. He's not into that. But someone told me if every person in the household picks their favorite pattern, that like that you can keep your own patterned napkin rather than everybody trying to keep track of like, if we all have red napkins, whose red napkin is the clean one and whose red napkin is the dirty one. Like, then you just have to wash all of them. But if we all have a different pattern, then it's so much easier to keep track. Anyway, I just heard this and I was like, that's genius. Yeah, Mary.
I've always used a cloth napkin, and that's what napkin rings were about. Ever since the 1930s, we always use cloth napkins. But my sister told me the best cloth napkin is a small, lightweight wash rag. And when and they're absorbent, they're soft. You don't have to worry about, but right now, who cares what anything looks like anyway? So
That's
I
right.
use my everyday ones are just a washcloth.
Yep. I end up using also these unpaper towels. I end up folding them up and making these into napkins too. I mean, this I use for everything, right? I joke that it dries tears, it gets rid of crumbs, you can blow your nose, you can serve toast, you can do whatever you need to do. Like, I think cloth is amazing in all of its forms.
I was watching America's Test Kitchen, and she does the same thing with having the hamper in your kitchen. So I'm going to start definitely doing that. So for
It's
all
a
of
game
the
changer.
towels, because she uses 3 different kinds of towels in all her cooking
Yeah,
stuff.
the other thing that works well is napkin rings. And you can go to the thrift store and get really lovely old silver ones, elegant, and everybody gets a different napkin ring, and you get a pile of them and let whoever wants to pick their own napkin ring.
I like this very much. This is the thing I'm going to implement this weekend. I love this napkin rings. I have a girlfriend who is doing an estate sale, and she said there's all this beautiful china and everything. I'm like, great, I'm going to go buy 4 really delightful napkin rings that are different. I like that idea very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Sandra.
Where do you get those bowl covers?
Oh, I forgot to tell you. There's a woman named Molly in Mill Valley, and her shop is called Ambatalia. I'll put it in the chat, but they're these beautiful linen bowl covers, and they're reversible. So like sometimes I feel like being blue stripy, sometimes I feel like the natural linen. She's got big ones and small ones. Her linens are just beautiful. I think her website actually changed recently to non-disposable life. Disposable life.com. I think that this is right. But yeah, and her little shop is in, if you've been to the old lumber yard in Mill Valley, they've kind of turned it into like a little shopping space, and she's right there in the middle. And she just has the most beautiful store and all kinds of delightful, environmentally friendly things.
Okay, something else.
Oh, okay. Yes.
When it comes to covering leftover foods, I usually just take one of my small plates like that and plunk it on top. And then when it comes out, I throw it in the dishwasher. I mean, these are handy. I never worry about covering with plastic or anything. I just put one of these because most of the leftovers are small enough that I could put something like this on it. And I have some oblong things. And for ages, I save olive jars, pickle jars, any kind of glass jars. I store all my nuts and seeds and everything excess like that in glass jars. I keep a collection of them. It's very handy. You just throw them in the dishwasher and reuse them.
You know, Mary, the other thing about that's so great is that when you store your food in a glass jar, especially your dried goods, they will last longer because because they are airtight. So like, for example, when my husband gets chips or something, or crackers, I immediately decant them into like a large glass jar. And I have like potato chips that last 2 or 3 weeks because I mean, they last as long as we eat them, right? It depends on how fast they are, but like they don't go stale. Same thing with crackers, same things with cereal, right? Like my son is really into having a bowl of cereal, but he's sick. So like he just wants a cup. And rather than like roll up the plastic, which is not airtight, like eventually your cereal goes stale. If you keep it in a glass jar with the airtight seal, it will last you as long as you want it to. And that's a huge way to reduce food waste.
Good for rice and beans too.
Yeah.
Another thing that really is nice, if you can get a canning funnel
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You can't
It
do any
just
of this
really-
without that.
It really fills them up so much easier using a canning funnel.
Yes.
A lot of people might know, some folks may not know what a canning funnel is. It just got an opening like big enough to go in like a mason jar.
Yeah. Was it Sandra? I checked that URL right now, non-disposable life, and that's where you get the bowl covers. Yeah, so I've got you can't see my totally mess of an office. I made it look nice for you, but I have all my
That's
tips
very
and
nice.
tricks right here in my hand. So if there's anything else I can share with you, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to put my email in the chat right now, and feel free to send me a follow-up. If there was something I said that made you think, the next day, or you had a question, like, please don't hesitate. I'm always delighted. And I will just say that if you know somebody who needs a really helping hand to actually get into their house and do a deep dive and go through everything, or if you decide that you want to change all your light bulbs, but you don't actually want to be the person who changes all your light bulbs, give me a call. That's what I do for a living. So if, not just change light bulbs, but a lot of changing light bulbs. But yeah, so if you know somebody who needs my help, or if you need my help, I am here to answer questions over email for sure. And also my website for my business is sustainabilityconcierge.com. So I'll put both of those in the chat right now. You can find me at
This has been
email.
hugely helpful. On Saturday, we may be sitting, my son and I may be sitting for a couple hours waiting to download everything onto a new computer. And I was wondering, what are we going to do in that 2 hours? And I think we're going to go to the hardware store and check out light bulbs.
That's right. Yeah, you are. This is a great project for the two of you.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Fred.
thank you again, Friday. I think it was a fabulous presentation. I know we all learned a lot. I took a lot of notes, and I'm going to make some changes and corrections in my own home. And we so appreciate all your information.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. And I will talk to you soon.